Here we go, driving home review. I was going to do it because if I've got my glasses on, actually the camera's a bit fuzzy because it's too close, and these aren't very focals. And I'm that old. If I do that, I can see and I go, actually the picture's not as grainy as I thought. Okay, so we've just been to see Eternal, and they didn't do any of their hits. No sign of Louise Redknapp. Most disappointing.
That's because it was Eternals we went to see, not Eternal.
I've got this whole thing wrong. So yes, we've been to see Eternals, and I'm not going to go into like big spoilers about where the film goes eventually. However, I do think to give it a decent review, you've got to touch on plot points. So if you are staying 100% know nothing about the film going in, the time to look away is now. And straight on, you're down here for a couple of miles. Even though this sticky out car is going to be a problem because people are dicks and can't park in a line, Mr. Nissan Juke. They also ran outside the chemist, obviously that day. So yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it, I'll be honest. Fell asleep at one point. But it's an enjoyable film. It's what I think's in its favour for me was, given it's a Marvel property that the wider MCU going audience will know shit all about. Let's face it, I don't know anything about Eternals. Oh, I do now. I've never read anything to do with Eternals. I can't remember if they pop up in Civil War. Doesn't ring a bell. Yeah, so I know shit. You've read Eternals, haven't you?
No.
He's not read Eternals either. I thought you read.
I only know stuff about the larger, like the Celestials and stuff.
Right.
From reading mutant titles.
Gotcha. Okay, fine. So yeah, so I went into this pretty much knowing bugger all. And what I don't think it does, which I've straight on still, which I think has been not a problem, because they've still been good and well-made films and well-written and well acted and directed and cinematographerized and all the rest of it. But I do think it was getting a bit Marvel by numbers to introduce new properties and new characters. There was a very definite format, and I don't think this had it. This didn't have... I mean, it kind of was there in the background, but it wasn't like a massively obvious 3-act. There's this, there's this, there's this. And the ending then wasn't building up to some enormous ending. It all just felt like a... Rather than it was all like a very gentle climb throughout to a crescendo. Is how I felt about it. And there's a lot of characters as well. It's not just your hero / pair of heroes and the 2 or 3 people that are mainly around them, and then other people come and go. This is a core cast of probably the size of an Avengers movie, but from the off, without you having any background or knowing them from anything else. One thing I did think was odd throughout the film was Kit Harington, for quite a name. You know, he was big in Game of Thrones from start to finish. Seemed to have a ridiculously small part. So it's fairly obvious there's more of him to come, I would say, in franchise world. Yeah, I thought the thing I do have to mention is, for the second time, we were sat in a film where it was hard to make out people's faces for a lot of the film. It wasn't as bad. We walked out of Dune for that very reason, that we couldn't see people's faces. And then the first scene with Jason Momoa, literally he was a silhouette when he was unloading that ship as Duncan Idaho, and we just walked out at that point. We've since seen that film elsewhere, on a different platform. And
you just winked at the camera then?
No, I stuck my tongue out.
Okay.
And yes, it was nothing like our experience in the cinema for the lighting and the visibility of the film.
Given one of the things we were told was, yes, it's a very dark
film.
It's
a dark film.
Shot
It's been made that way. And I was like, no, because I've seen the trailer, and I've just seen scenes that don't look anything like the trailer, so you can fuck right off. So yes, so there'll be a really sharply worded email going to Cineworld head office, because I suspect Newport are trying to save money and have just turned the brightness down on the bulbs, because that's a thing. I checked with a projection friend of mine, and given you don't have projectionists anymore, it's probably a great cost-cutting save for the manager. So if they don't cut that shit out, we'll be going to Odeon. Fuck them. 10 years of Sydney World Unlimited membership be damned. So it was this film actually. It was dark. It was almost, the best way to describe it, and we agreed on this as we came out, was if you can imagine just watching ordinary telly at home but wearing your sunglasses in the house. That's kind of what this film looked like. I don't think that's going to be a problem with the film wherever you go, unless you go to City World in Newport.
At least we would certainly hope it's not going to be a problem wherever you go.
Yeah, so we are going to track this down, see if there's a download popped up anywhere.
Carrying straight on.
Carrying straight on. You are carrying straight on, right the way down. Don't run this man over. Or his mate. What the fuck? Jesus, what's wrong with people? So it's a good. There is. I'm just going to adjust for a second because my have a close up of my nose. Just my arm got a bit sore. So there are 2 credit scenes, mid credits and end credits, which are worth sticking around for. Weirdly, we had no film trailers at all, did we? No. We had a trailer for a PS4 game that utilises a very similar remix of New Order, Blue Monday, to the Wonder Woman 84 soundtrack. It wasn't the orchestral version, but it was basically the same arrangement but with the original music. And we were a bit like, given how Wonder Woman 84 turned out, do you really want to align yourself with that? That seems like a marketing mistake. But yes, it was a nice film. It was quite. It set up. It only had a lot to do, and it set up a lot. 2 things really stood out for me. One was fairly certain Marvel's first actual sex scene, and also, to my knowledge, Marvel's first full-on gay couple.
And gay kiss. Yeah. So that was quite nice to see, because they were both done with no whistles or bells or flags or oh look, we're doing this. What I did find at the beginning, when the certificate comes up and it says mild peril and something, and it was like sex scene, rude gesture. That'd be Sprite.
I know exactly what it referred to, but I'm like, are we seriously at that point? Because someone does that in a film, we have to put a warning at the front of it. Oh, fuck right off. It shouldn't. See, this gets my goat. This whole list of things they have to warn you about before a film because the world's too fucking precious and namby-pamby. Do not start me. He disagrees. He's on the namby-pamby brigade, this one. So I'm so getting punched. What did you think of the film?
I really enjoyed it.
You got anything else to say? What did you like about it? Tell everyone what you loved about the film.
Basically, I think I liked all of the namby-pamby stuff. I liked the fact that it was, possibly one of the more diverse cast of characters.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I've got no issue with any of that.
You've got. I think it's also. I know technically, the TV shows, which I think aren't canon now, as in the older ones.
Oh, like your Jessica Jones and your Luke Cage. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, obviously, Daredevil, was. That's his whole shtick. He's a blind superhero.
Yeah.
But obviously, with Makari, you have a deaf superhero. The fact that, and again, I think it's the way. I imagine it's probably down to Chloe's sort of deft touch, given what she did with Nomadland. But these characters are kind of introduced, as you said, with kind of no real. Oh, aren't we being diverse and ever so special? It's like literally. There is just a gay character who is in a happy committed relationship with a kid. There is the sex scene, and it's not like, oh, look at what we're doing, snigger. So I like that. I actually thought, as an origin movie goes, it really worked. Given that she's kind of having to introduce these characters that have lived for, by this point, 7,000 years worth of history. And I think the way that it was kind of done was, credit to the script writers as well.
But isn't that the point that they're as old as they were literally born when the universe was born? So they're like a gazillion years old and shit.
Well, I think that's the weird thing. Technically, you always assume, because again, that's probably kind of going into spoiler territory, but in terms of the movie, they come to Earth 7,000 years ago as the first planet they visit, and they are beings that are associated with the Celestials and yada yada yada. The Celestials themselves are, functionally older than the universe.
Yeah. I thought didn't it actually say in the opening preamble that Celestials created which creates the universe, and then they basically created the Eternals?
Yes, but I think what isn't made clear from that is that they're talking about the Eternals as a race essentially from the planet Olympia,
rather than these actual characters.
Rather than these specific
Gotcha.
characters.
Okay. Yeah.
But I didn't fall asleep during the movie.
I wasn't asleep long.
Well, I know, but as I say, it's. I think because the other thing I suppose we have to remember is that we're now kind of back in essentially a Marvel universe, not reset as such, but we're back to world building again. We are going through probably a more polished equivalent of what they were doing with like the Iron Mans and everything, where they were kind of building up to the whole phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 stuff. We've had our big set piece, so we're kind of almost taking a step back, and obviously they're now setting up the cosmic, the multiverse, all of that sort of thing. Am I staying in this lane?
Yes, you are. Yeah, because you're going right at the roundabout.
Cool. So I think, because I've seen some criticisms of the movie that it's very, it's slow, it's this, it's the other. I think for me,
I think that works.
Yeah, I think it kind of needs to be, because this is a character piece. These are very powerful individuals. So, don't make the mistake that they did with Superman in sort of, the DC cinematic universe of just making him a cipher and all this sort of stuff. You kind of have to, and it will make sense in terms of the movie storyline, but you kind of have to understand these ciphers as characters in their own right, and I think the movie did a really good job of that.
Ooh,
so I really liked it, and now I need to concentrate because I'm on a busy roundabout.
So yes, I think that again, you look at the choice of director, Chloe, who directed. I didn't know how to pronounce it. And you've got someone in. Obviously, she hadn't won the Oscar for Nomadland at that point, but you've got in a film director rather than a blockbuster director, and I think it absolutely delivers in spades, because you've got. Like I said, I think it's what gives it that kind of. It's like going up a hill rather than not going up a hill. That didn't work at all. I couldn't
down a hill,
and I couldn't think. I was trying to think of okay, give you a comparison that's personal touch, right? So when I did a 6-peak challenge in the Alps, you basically from the bottom you just. You are, down here. Yeah, you just climbed and climbed and climbed. You were. It was. There was no really steep bit and then a flat bit. It was almost. You zigzag a lot, but it was almost like a constant. And that's how this felt to me. Go over once you can, yeah. And that was kind of what was the strength of it, was the fact that it did build the characters nicely. It built the world nicely. It engaged you with the characters, so you really cared about them, because there was a lot of them. What I also thought, and I thought was, I just naturally leapt to this when you were saying about like the diversity and all the rest of it, was because they kind of, it's in the preamble that their boss, creators, whatever you want to call them, seed life. The fact that you've got lots of different sort of looks, skin tones, hair type, and accents, I just took it as that's why we have those looks, skin tones, hair types and accents, because they were here in the beginning. So the fact you've got an Irish, a Scottish, a very British, you've got sort of Indian, you've got Eastern Asian, you've got Angelina Jolie as the very sort of pale and blonde. Do you know what I mean? So I've possibly made a leap there that doesn't exist, but I just took it as because they were here in the beginning of our species, that's how it seeded into us. I might have completely gone too far with my imagination with that one, but it's an enjoyable film. It's great. It isn't like any of, say, the first Marvel stuff. It is more of a slow build, more of a character piece. I don't think general public wide, it's going to become that whole, oh, it's my new favourite Marvel, which you hear so often whenever a new Marvel film comes out. I don't think you're going to get that. I mean, you know, it'll be for somebody, but it's not going to be a massive stereotype. Yeah, it's in this traffic. Don't follow the bus. There's a bus lane. So we're going to have to queue a little bit here. So yeah, it's good. I really enjoyed it.
Big thumbs up from me.
Yeah, there we go. Now you go see what you think.